Welcome to Shadowed Tales Archive. Tonight's story is titled, Mara and a Hollow Mirror. Let the shadows speak.
Part 1. The Apartment with Too Many Eyes. I didn't always live alone. Not really. I paid rent by myself and no one ever knocked on the door, but some nights I could feel her watching. Not from the hallway, not from the street, but from inside the walls, inside the mirror. My name's Elliot Ward. I'm a painter. Was a painter. Back when I thought the only thing killing me was the unpaid bills and the cheap whiskey. Back when I still believed I was in control of my own mind. I moved into that apartment on Holloway Street in early spring, thinking I'd finally get some peace. It was small, a single window, cracked tiles, walls that inhaled every time the wind passed through, but it was cheap. And I needed cheap. I was barely scraping by with commissions for digital fan art, freelance tattoo stencils, and the occasional mural some pretentious cafe wanted done, inspired by mental illness. So yeah, peace was what I thought I was buying. But what I got was Mara. It started with the mirror. I found it in the back alley behind the complex, resting against a dumpster like someone had left it there by accident. It wasn't fancy. The kind of old wall-mounted vanity you'd find at a yard sale for $5. Cracked in the corner, frame half-rotted, glass smudged with fingerprints that didn't come from me. But the weird thing? I didn't remember carrying it inside. I swear to God, I just looked at it for a moment, saw my reflection twist slightly as if caught in static, blinked, and it was already in my apartment, leaning against the wall, in my bedroom, waiting. The first few nights, I barely noticed it. I was dealing with a breakup that left more bruises than answers, and the insomnia had started creeping in. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling my pulse throb in my ears and thinking maybe this was just what being 30 and alone felt like. Then came the dreams. Always the same hallway. Narrow. Endless. Lit by nothing but flickering static light, like a busted TV screen vomiting snow. My footsteps echoed like I was walking on hollow bones. And at the end of that hallway, always, a shape. Not a person. Not exactly. Something in a red scarf. Something with no mouth but still whispering. The first time I heard her voice, I thought I was still dreaming. "You can trap it, you know," she said. I was sitting at my work table, half asleep, sketching nonsense onto a blank canvas just to keep my hands busy. The mirror sat in the corner behind me, untouched. No one else was in the room. I froze. "Who's there?" I asked. Stupid, I know. It was 4 in the morning and I lived alone. The voice came again. Soft, playful. "Something followed you back from that dream. Something hungry. But I can help. If you'll let me." I turned around. Nothing. Just my face in the glass. Except, not exactly. My reflection blinked before I did. Part 2. The Smile That Wasn't Mine. I didn't sleep after that. Not for the rest of the week. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw her standing behind the glass, not reflected but trapped. Waiting. Staring. Mouthless but whispering with her eyes. The whispers never stopped after that night. They would rise from the corners of my apartment like steam. Faint, unintelligible at first, like a foreign song underwater. But the longer I stayed awake, the more I could understand. "You brought it here," she'd say. "Now you must give it shape, before it gives shape to you." I tried to ignore it. I really did. I unplugged the mirror, threw a sheet over it, taped the damn thing face down against the wall. But no matter what I did, the reflection kept bleeding through, not onto the mirror, onto my canvas. I remember the first time it happened. I was sketching a portrait for a client. A straightforward job, stylized bust, muted tones, double exposure with a background of stars. Nothing complicated. I wasn't even thinking. But when I finished and stepped back, it wasn't the client's face staring back at me. It was hers, or something like her. The same dark eyes, the same crooked grin that curled way too wide. But worse, her mouth had begun to open, and I swear I could hear her laughing from the painting. I tore it down, ripped it to shreds. But the next night, the painting reappeared, not on canvas but in the mirror, burned into the reflection like an afterimage of something that had never been real or had never stopped being. I didn't tell anyone. How do you explain that your mirror is haunted by a version of yourself who paints better than you and wants to devour your dreams? No, I kept it to myself. Until Dylan. Dylan wasn't really a close friend. Just a guy I'd met in art school who happened to still live nearby. He made good money designing props for indie horror films and liked to brag about how knowing the uncanny was his personal brand. He showed up unannounced one Friday holding a six-pack and wearing that smug smirk I always hated. "Jesus, Elliot," he said when I opened the door. "You look like a crypt keeper. When's the last time you ate something that wasn't regret?" I laughed, weakly. "Come in. I need to show you something." He didn't notice the mirror at first. No one ever did. I pointed it out casually while we were drinking. Said I'd found it behind the building. That I thought it might be old, valuable even. Dylan squinted at it. "What's with the frame?" he asked. "Looks like someone carved eyes into the wood." I frowned. I hadn't noticed that before. We got closer. Sure enough, the edges of the frame were dotted with little eye-like carvings. Not drawn, embedded. Tiny, lidless, staring eyes that shimmered when the light hit them just right. "I don't think this is just a mirror," Dylan muttered. "You said you found it in the alley?" "Yeah," I said. "I think it followed me." He laughed. "Until the reflection moved." I didn't see it, but Dylan did. He went pale, dropped his beer, and stumbled backward into my easel. "What the hell was that? What did you see?" He shook his head, sweat forming fast on his brow. "There was someone behind you. Not in the mirror. Inside it. Jesus, Elliot, you need to get rid of that thing." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But it was already too late. The eyes were open now. All of them. And from deep behind the glass, Mara was smiling. Wider than ever. Part 3. The Rules of the Mirror. I didn't hear from Dylan again. He left that night without finishing his sentence. No joke. One moment he was babbling about reverse reflections and visual contagion. The next he was out the door, muttering something about smudged eyes and that voice. I texted him the next day. No response. I called. Straight to voicemail. By day 3, his number was disconnected. Whatever he saw in that mirror, it followed him out. Whatever Mara was, she didn't like witnesses. After that, the whispers changed. They weren't just random mutterings anymore. They had shape, rhythm, almost like poetry. Instructions maybe. To hold it still, you must give it a name. To banish it, you must draw it true. But if you speak its form before the final line, it will no longer belong to you. Cryptic, right? But that's the thing with Mara, she never gives you rules. Just riddles that pretend to be. Still, I listened. What else could I do? I hadn't slept in 4 days. My fridge was empty, and my skin itched like it didn't belong to me anymore. I started drawing again. Not for clients. Not for money. For her. It felt like compulsion at first. My hand moved before my brain could catch up, sketching curves I didn't recognize, eyes that looked like they bled, mouth stitched shut but screaming underneath. I didn't remember buying new canvases, but they kept appearing. I didn't remember painting during the night, but I'd wake up on the floor, hands covered in color I couldn't name, staring at portraits that shouldn't have existed. Always the same face. Mara's. She was changing. Every day the smile grew longer. Every night, her pose got closer to the edge of the canvas, as if she was crawling toward me through oil and acrylic. I tried to stop. What? Took all the paintings, stacked them in the bathtub, doused them in rubbing alcohol, and lit a match. The flames didn't go out. They vanished. I mean it, just blinked out of existence. No smoke, no burn marks, no heat. Just gone. And in the mirror, Mara's expression changed for the first time. She frowned. The wall shook that night. Not from an earthquake, from breathing. Like the whole apartment exhaled all at once. And from the mirror came a low, drawn-out sound, like someone dragging their nails along piano wire. "You broke our contract," Mara whispered. I fell to my knees. "I never agreed to anything." She laughed. "It was wet. Close. You looked. That was enough." The rules became clear after that. 1. Don't cover the mirror. 2. Don't draw anything but her. 3. Don't destroy her likeness. 4. Never ever turn your back to her reflection after midnight. Guess which one I broke first? That night, around 2:17 a.m., I turned away to grab my sketch pad, just for a second. When I looked back, Mara wasn't in the mirror anymore. She was in the room. I couldn't see her fully, just flickers in my peripheral vision. A red scarf twisting midair. A pale hand brushing across my shoulder like cold wind. The faint sound of breathing behind the drywall. And in the silence that followed, her voice. "You know what fear looks like, Elliot. Now give it a face. A final one." Part 4. The Archivist's Warning. I didn't go outside for days after that. My apartment had become a pressure chamber, air thick like syrup, walls flexing in and out like lungs that weren't mine. The mirror no longer showed reflections. It showed scenes. Hallways that didn't exist. Doors that opened into nothing. My own face, sleeping, watching, cracking. And always, Mara. Always closer. I would have lost myself completely if it weren't for the note. It came in a red envelope, slipped under my door sometime around dusk. No stamp. No address. Just a single word printed across the front in blocky, blood-colored ink. Archivist. Inside was a folded letter, handwritten in tight, sharp cursive. Read. "If she's speaking to you, it's already too late. But if you're still seeing only one face, you might still have time. Come to 1329 Bramble Lane. Bring no mirrors. Do not speak her name aloud." I didn't want to go. Hell, I didn't even plan on going. But something in that handwriting felt outside of her. For the first time in weeks, something in my gut wasn't screaming. I left just before midnight. Bramble Lane didn't exist on Google Maps. But my feet seemed to find it anyway. It wasn't a lane. More like an alley tucked between two abandoned laundromats, where the pavement turned to gravel and streetlights flickered like nervous eyes. The house at 1329 wasn't a house either. More like a converted storage unit. No windows. One rusting steel door. And carved into the frame, a small sigil of an open eye, sewn shut. I knocked once. The door opened before I could try again. The man inside was older, maybe 60. Well, covered in ink, not tattoos, not quite. More like markings. Bliss. Symbols that moved slightly if you looked too long. He nodded. "You're the painter." I blinked. "Who are you?" He didn't smile. "I'm the one who tried to burn her first." His name was Mason, and he called himself an archivist of unwanted things. He wasn't a magician, not a priest, not a therapist, just a man who had, in his words, survived the attention of a mirror-bound entity long enough to learn its rules and its lies. We sat across from each other in a room filled with artifacts. Burned canvas, cracked lenses, teeth in jars, and books, hundreds of them. All handwritten, all coded. "All the stories are the same," Mason muttered, lighting a cigarette that smelled like cedar and oil. "Different names, different faces, but they always need the same thing, a vessel." "A vessel?" He nodded. "Fear is noise to them. Confusion is fuel. But form? That's where they thrive. That's why they push artists. Painters, writers, musicians, anyone who can give them a shape. Once you give fear a face, it becomes a doorway." I felt cold. "So she's not real?" "Oh, she's real," Mason said darkly. "But only because you let her be." He slid a notebook across the table. On the cover was a symbol I'd seen before, hidden in Mara's smile, etched in my own forgotten paintings. The hollow mirror, he said. It's not an object. It's a cycle. Inside were pages of entries, testimonies, sketches, fragments of ritual. One name repeated itself, Mara. Sometimes spelled Mara, sometimes Mare. One entry chilled me to the bone. Phase 1, Introduction through Reflection. Phase 2, Artistic Compulsion. Phase 3, Peripheral Manifestation. Phase 4, Emotional Tethering. Phase 5, Assimilation. I was already at Phase 4. Mason looked me dead in the eye. You have 3 choices now. Okay, I whispered. Tell me. 1. Complete the vessel. Paint her final form. Let her wear your face and pray she chooses mercy. 2. Destroy every medium she's infected. Canvases, pigments, the mirror itself. But you'll have to do it without looking. And she won't make that easy. He paused, then leaned closer. 3. Trap her in someone else. Bait. Transference. Ugly business. But it works. I shook my head. I'm not doing that to anyone. He raised an eyebrow. You sure about that, Elliot? Because the longer you hesitate, the more she becomes you. When I got back home, the mirror was gone. Not shattered. Not moved. Just gone. In its place, smeared on the wall in a muddy mix of ash and crimson. One face left. Yours. And from behind me, even in the silence, I heard her whisper again. This time from inside my head. You don't need rules anymore, Elliot. Just a canvas. And a choice. Part 5. The Canvas of Bone. I stopped recognizing myself after that night. Not metaphorically. Literally. My reflection, when it showed up at all, didn't blink when I did. Didn't follow my movements. It lagged like it was waiting for a better version of me to emerge. My skin looked thinner. My eyes wider. Like the mask of me had been peeled back and reapplied slightly wrong. Worse, I started forgetting things. Hours. Conversations. Even full days would vanish, only to return in pieces. A bruise here, a painting I didn't remember finishing, a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. Elliot, it's Alex. You okay? You sounded weird last night. Said you were working on something important? I'm coming over. Alex. I hadn't seen him in months, and now Mara had a target. I tore through my apartment like a madman. Destroyed every canvas. Smashed every sketch pad. Anything that had even touched her image, I shredded, burned, or threw out the window. I even checked under the floorboards, and found a painting I swear to God I'd never made. Mara mid-laugh with Alex's face melting into hers. That was the first time I threw up blood. She spoke louder now. No more whispers. No more seduction. Now she commanded. He's perfect. You know it. All that potential. All that trust. He'll believe anything you say. Invite him in. Show him the mirror. You don't even have to lie. Just let him look. I sobbed on the floor, clutching my knees like a child. I won't. Her voice turned venomous. You already did. The doorbell rang at 9:13 p.m. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. My fingernails were black with paint that wouldn't wash off. My pupils didn't match anymore. One was too wide. But I opened the door anyway. Alex smiled. His presence was too real. Too human. Jeans with a fray on the left knee. Hoodie too big for his frame. Eyes that looked at me like I mattered. Jesus, Elliot, he muttered. What the hell happened to you? I can't talk, I rasped. You need to go. But he didn't leave. Of course he didn't. He stepped inside, past the threshold, and Mara sighed with pleasure from every corner of the apartment. Alex didn't notice the absence of the mirror. He noticed the paintings though. The ones I couldn't destroy. They were on the ceiling now. I don't remember putting them there, and each one had a face I almost recognized. Friends. Ex-lovers. My mother. All of them, with her eyes. Dude, Alex whispered, backing up. What the hell is going on? I wanted to explain. I really did. But I blacked out. When I came to, Alex was gone. The door was still swinging open. My throat ached. My hands were wet. Not with blood, with varnish. And on the easel in the middle of the room, a new painting. Alex's face, half real, half smiling, half hers, stretched across the canvas in oil so fresh it still shimmered. Below it, in my own handwriting, Phase 5, assimilation complete. I screamed until my voice broke. Then something cracked behind my eyes, like a window giving way, and I saw her. Not just her face, her form. She wasn't human, never had been. Mara was a patchwork of selves. Stolen identities harvested from reflection after reflection. She didn't live in the mirror, she used it like a fishing net, catching those fragile enough to see her, then sculpting herself from their worst fears. And now she had enough parts. She didn't need me anymore. But she left me one gift, a final canvas, blank, and written on it in red, your turn. Paint what you really look like now. Don't lie. I'll know. And for the first time in weeks I felt calm, because I knew what had to happen. Part 6, The Frame That Bleeds. I stared at the blank canvas for hours. It didn't blink, didn't pulse, didn't whisper. But I could feel her in it, coiled just beneath the surface, waiting for me to move, waiting for that first stroke of paint to unlock whatever door she'd prepared on the other side. I should have run, should have screamed. But instead, I did the only thing I had left. I painted. Not her. Not Alex. Not some twisted hybrid. Me. The real me. I started with the eyes. Hollow. Bloodshot. Mismatched. Not from fear. From exhaustion. One eye wider than the other, because the deeper I sank into Mara's influence, the more of me she wore, and the less I could hold together. Next came the mouth, open but not in scream or smile. Just slack. As if language had abandoned me. As if I had no words left that hadn't already been stolen. Then the skin, flaking, blotched with color like rot. My fingers remembered shades I'd never used before. Bone white, gutter green, mirror silver, and finally the background. Not a room, not a place, just a void. A flat, breathing void. She tried to stop me. The lights dimmed. The paint cracked mid-brush. My ears filled with the sound of shattering glass, though nothing broke. Her voice surged like a siren. This is not your role, Elliot. You're a vessel, not a creator. Stop. But I didn't, because that was her mistake. She gave me the mirror, but forgot I was the artist. When I finished the last stroke, I didn't step back. I spoke. Here's what I look like now, Mara. This is what you've made. And the canvas screamed. It didn't burn. It peeled. Like flesh from a fruit, layers of oil and pigment curling off in waves. And beneath it, not wood, but glass. The hollow mirror. She had tricked me again. The canvas wasn't a blank at all. It was another entrance. Another threshold. A new door. And this time I was the one standing on the outside. I reached for it, not out of bravery, not out of defiance. Just inevitability. But before I could touch the surface, I saw something in the reflection. Not Mara. Not me. Someone else. A woman, pale, shaking, staring into her mirror. Somewhere far away. In a different city. With a different painting. But the same eyes. And I understood. It never ends. I turned the painting around. Carved one word into the back with a box cutter. Run. Then I did what no one else had done before me. I framed the hollow mirror. Bound it in sigils from Mason's book. Coated the glass in my blood. And locked it behind a wall of plaster and paint and silence. No reflection. No door. No name. Just art. They found my apartment 6 weeks later. Empty. Dusty. Walls covered in unfinished works, all of them signed the same. Mara. They never found me. Not really. But the painting, the last one, made its way to a gallery in Portland, then to an auction house in Vancouver, then to the private collection of an influencer who likes cursed stuff. She posted a TikTok about it. In the background, you can almost see something moving behind her. In the mirror, smiling. I'll leave you with this. If you ever find a painting of yourself that you don't remember posing for, don't look at it too long. And whatever you do, don't smile back.
And that was tonight's tale from the Shadowed Tales archive. If it left a mark on your mind, if the silence feels heavier now, then the story did what it was meant to do. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the darkness. New stories are always on their way. Until then, keep the lights low and the doors locked.